Imagine walking through a grocery store you've been visiting for years. Same sliding doors, same fluorescent lights, same smell of baked bread near the entrance. You grab a cart without thinking. This is routine, ordinary, harmless. You move through the aisles on autopilot. Milk, eggs, chicken, rice, coffee, fruit. Nothing extravagant. No steak dinners, no imported chocolate. Just the basics. The kind of food that fills a fridge without drawing attention. At checkout, the total flashes on the screen. For a split second, you assume something scanned twice. You mentally replay what's in your cart. This can't be right. It's groceries. It's not a weekend getaway. It's not a car repair. It's food. And yet, the number staring back at you feels closer to a monthly bill than a weekly errand. On the drive home, you think about your first apartment, the tiny one with the uneven floors and the humming refrigerator, the place you split with a roommate. Your portion of rent was manageable. Not easy, but manageable. And now, standing in your kitchen, unloading bags of produce and pantry staples, you realize something unsettling. Your grocery bill, month after month, rivals what you once paid to keep a roof over your head. That realization isn't just about inflation. It's about scale, about how quietly the baseline cost of living has shifted. There was a time when housing was the unquestioned heavyweight of the budget. Rent dominated. Everything else orbited around it. Food was a necessity, yes, but it felt proportionate, predictable. Groceries rose slowly, almost politely. Now, the grocery store feels like a barometer for something larger. Prices edge up, not dramatically, but steadily. $1 more here, $2 there. Over time, those increments compound into something that feels disproportionate to what you're holding in your hands. But the deeper story isn't just about supply chains or economic cycles. It's about how we experience money psychologically. Your first apartment represented independence. It was expensive relative to your income, but it symbolized growth. You expected it to stretch you. Groceries, on the other hand, were background noise. They weren't supposed to stretch anything. They were supposed to be routine. So when food begins to feel heavy, it disrupts more than your budget. It disrupts your sense of normal. Part of what's happening is structural. Modern food production is more complex than it's ever been. Transportation costs fluctuate. Labor costs rise. Climate patterns affect yields. Global events ripple through local shelves. The system that delivers strawberries in winter and avocados year-round isn't simple. When pressure hits any part of that system, prices adjust, and they rarely adjust downward with the same enthusiasm. But another part is behavioral. We don't shop the way we used to. Convenience has woven itself into our expectations. Pre-cut vegetables, pre-marinated proteins, organic labels, delivery fees, specialty snacks that didn't exist 20 years ago. None of these are inherently irresponsible. They're responses to time scarcity. When both adults in a household work, time becomes a currency more valuable than money. So we trade dollars for saved minutes without feeling the trade happen. Over time, grocery carts reflect lifestyle shifts, not just inflation. What used to be ingredients has become solutions. What used to require planning now requires scanning a barcode. The modern grocery store doesn't just sell food, it sells efficiency. And yet, even if you strip your cart down to the bare essentials, rice, beans, eggs, bread, the total still feels elevated. That's when the realization hits. It's not just what you're buying, it's what money itself has become. Your first apartment existed in a different economic rhythm. Wages were lower, but so were asset prices. Rent, while burdensome, hadn't absorbed the speculative pressure it carries now. In many cities today, that same apartment would cost double or triple. The comparison between groceries and rent isn't entirely fair because rent has surged too, but the emotional comparison remains powerful because it highlights how compressed the middle of the budget has become. Food is the most basic expense. It's survival. When survival begins to feel expensive, everything else feels fragile. There's also something philosophical about it. Groceries are recurring. They never end. You don't finish buying food. Every week you return. Every week you pay. It's a reminder that much of modern life is subscription-based, even when it isn't labeled that way. You subscribe to eating. You subscribe to housing. You subscribe to transportation. Income flows in and obligations flow out in a continuous loop. When that loop tightens, when each cycle leaves less margin, you feel it, even if you can technically afford it. The real tension isn't that groceries cost more than your first apartment in absolute terms, it's that the distance between effort and comfort feels narrower. You work harder, earn more, and yet ordinary expenses command a larger share of attention. The psychological contract many people grew up with, work steadily and everyday life will feel easier over time, feels strained. But here's where the perspective shifts. The grocery bill isn't just a symbol of rising prices, it's a mirror. It reflects how tightly engineered our financial lives have become. When fixed costs are high and savings rates are thin, even routine spending feels amplified. The issue isn't only that food is expensive, it's that margin is scarce. And margin changes everything. When you have margin, a high grocery bill is an inconvenience. When you don't, it feels like a warning. The same number can produce entirely different emotions depending on the space around it. So the question becomes less about why eggs cost more and more about why our financial structures leave so little breathing room. Why are so many households calibrated to operate at near capacity? Why does a fluctuation in essentials trigger anxiety instead of indifference? The powerful realization is that wealth isn't defined by the size of your paycheck or the price of your rent. It's defined by how resilient you are to ordinary life. Groceries shouldn't feel dramatic. They should feel forgettable. When they don't, it's not just an economic issue, it's a design issue. And maybe that's the deeper lesson hidden between the aisles. The goal isn't to outrun rising prices forever, it's to build enough space in your life that everyday costs lose their emotional charge. Because when buying food feels heavier than signing your first lease once did, it's not just the economy that's changed, it's the meaning of stability. And stability, more than any price tag, is what we've really been trying to afford all along.